Hey everyone, it's Spicy Sushi. So this is actually my second recording because I accidentally went live instead of recording a video, and I think I may have gotten off track once I realized I was live. So I do kind of want to re-record. But anyway, a lot of people are asking my thoughts on Harvest and what I think about the changes. If Harvest is still going to be good for farming for currency, I think pretty much everyone is pretty happy with the changes outside of the currency farming side of Harvest because they just like the idea that Harvest is not a complete pain. I totally agree with. I do like that for the average player, like not even just a casual player, just a player who doesn't care about Harvest, they don't feel too bad for going into a Harvest and doing it. But there are some worries, I think, with this, in that the pictures that we've seen on the amount of life force that you actually get is a bit depressing, since this whole plot is basically like, although we do see there's one over here, we just don't really know how spread out, how staggered the monsters come out. If we're getting like this much life force, which if you don't know, this is like basically enough for some basic reforges, then I would say this is pretty nice because uh, TLDR, we don't know if harvest farming is going to be worse, the same, or buffed. If anyone tells you that harvest farming is strictly worse, that it's an ignorant take because we just don't know. GGG was very vague with the harvest notes. We simply don't know. I'm just going to have to farm it week one. I'm going to do my usual, Patreon spreadsheet, Twitch sub spreadsheet stuff going into it. I'm going to farm harvest week one. I'm going to figure out for everyone if harvest is actually really strong. It looks like it's going to be strong, I think, in my opinion, because if we go ahead and look at the patch notes, it's scalable with map quantity now. It's the sextant is going to double the amount of life force that we're going to get. If you didn't know, like Wandering Path is going to increase our life force as well. I think Wandering Path is actually going to be better than the big notables. If you didn't know, Wandering Path makes it so the notables don't work, but we'll cover all that. Let's go ahead and dive into it so I can kind of explain it further. But yeah, so the TLDR though, if you don't want to watch the video, I think harvest farming, we just can't tell. It's vague. If someone tells you otherwise for harvest farming, come have them argue with me, because I think it's just an ignorant take, because we just don't know. Back in Ultimatum, people said Harvest was completely dead and absolutely trash, and Larson, a PoE content creator, he went and farmed multiple mirrors in a week with Harvest. So you just can't really say those things and be, because we just don't know. But anyway, rather than being presented with a selection of crafts that must be used immediately, we now receive itemized tradable life force. So yeah, the life force is tradable. If you don't want to use it, you can sell it. So there's two avenues of harvest farming. There's going to be life force farming, just juicing as much life force as possible per map, which you're going to want to do no matter what, and selling it, or using the life force. And I think in general, if you know how to use it, you're going to make more money than someone who's going to sell it. But if you just want to turn your brain off and just turbo farm life force, juicing the maps to the maximum amount to be able to get the most amount of life force, sell it, that is a great strategy that you can do. And I think it's going to be a pretty common strategy for people. It's going to be like Ritual League harvest farmers, the people that would farm the crafts and sell them to the top tier crafters, and they would still make tons of money doing that. You could make over a mirror a day farming just crafts and Ritual League. But you can also just use the life force if you want, or buy it from other people. So you could farm harvest for life force and buy life force from people and go craft it when you don't feel like farming life force anymore. You can sit in your hideout and craft, But, let's get into the vagueness of the patch notes, things that we just can't tell. So T4 bosses are now encountered much more frequently. We don't know how much more frequently. They're a horrible spawn rate already, so they could barely be better. They can drop a key to fight Oshabi. This is not even guaranteed from the T4. They can drop a key. The notable no longer guarantees a key either. But she yields the special life force that can be used for a specific set of crafts. Now, Chris Wilson said this is like T4s and this is augments, but augments are now, but they've been balanced. So augments are going to be a null add. So it's going to be a lot. It's going to be basically a 50-50 RNG. And there could be other changes for other T4s like synthesis and fracture. It'll be interesting to see how they handle fractures, because I'm not sure exactly how they would balance it. Like they'd make it, like all of the fractures are going to be 1 in 5. There's no more 1 in 3 fracture, I guess, and that could be a thing, stuff like that. So, and also they've removed some of the nice fluff crafts from Harvest that really juiced up the profit per hour, such as offerings of the goddess, turning them into gifts of goddess, and I'm pretty sure winged scarabs have been removed from Harvest and moved to bestiary. I don't know yet, but it just says the BC recipe is going to be moved to wing scarab, and it doesn't say anything about the harvest part, so I just don't know. They're just not telling us a lot, obviously. But anyway, if we scroll down here, it says more frequently, we just don't know. It says Oshabi doesn't drop facetor's lenses or this stuff anymore. We know lures are no longer in the game. It says right here. It says Infused Beachhead has been moved outside of Harvest. It says Gift has been moved, but it doesn't mention other things. If this is all they removed, it's actually not bad, but they could just not be telling us things. Like I said, they were vague, that we only know from seeing images. Now, in the live stream, we did see Reforge More Likely is in here for 300 life force. This is an exceptionally strong harvest craft. It's going to be one of the best ways to make spell suppression gear. And the fact that you can just farm a lot of life force and, get as much as you want is a really strong, that's a really strong change, I think. So, and Facetor's lenses are really strong for leveling up Awaken, Empower, Awaken, Lighten, or, other gems and selling them. So if this is still in the game, that's really strong. We don't know anything about div cards, doubling div cards, stuff like that. But anyway, let's move into the notables. Now, this is why I think Wandering Path is going to be, or Grand Design. I mean, Grand Design looks good if you're going to be doing Harvest and Expedition, but I think if you're doing solo, if you're only doing Harvest, I think Wandering Path is the play, because the notables are honestly very underwhelming. Only 1 in every 2 maps is going to have a 50% chance to have an additional Harvest plot. There's a 60% increased chance to contain a tier 4 plant with this notable. Now, we don't know if this is just a comical notable. Like, if it's 60% increased chance on top of like a 1% chance, like, get out of here. That's a complete joke. So that's why I just don't know about this yet, because we need to know more. Now, the 10% chance to spawn additional monsters should be like 10% more life force, I guess, overall, which is the only good part about this, I think, so far that I see. And then 3% chance to give an additional crafting option now provides monsters map have a drop 3% increased quantity of life force, and you can double this to 6%. I believe like it's over 30% if you have Wandering Path, so a 30% increased multiplier on your life force. Now, this is the really interesting part. The Harvest Sextant has been changed so that it's no longer less common crafts. It's been changed to duplicating life force. Now, this is why, in my opinion, let me get to my main point. Harvest is going to be a high investment farming strategy. So Wandering Path is probably the play. You have to have the Sextant now. You are literally trolling because you're missing out on half of your life force. Harvest will be some of the hardest content in the game as well, because you want to do high quantity. You want to kill all the map bosses. Okay, not all the map bosses. You want to kill the map boss so that you can start getting Eldritch Gaze altars, and ones that ideally have map quant. Now, this is why I'm iffy about Wandering Path, is because if you take Wandering Path, you're not going to have access to Shadow of Hunger, which is why I'm thinking Grand Design might be better. I'm not really sure on the frequency of Eldritch Altars, or even if you'll even get quantity altars much, but we'll just have to see. I will be experimenting with them the entire league, so I will have all the updated information for you, my opinions, but ours will be some of the hardest content in the game. It's going to be high quantity, and you're going to be farming Eldritch Altars on top of it. And then Sextants are going to be doubling the health of the monsters as well. And Harvest was already hard monsters, so it's going to be pretty brutal. Which means, I think, to cheese it early on, I don't think Harvest is something you want to do day one. You're going to wait until you have your Atlas filled out. You're going to want to wait until you have Sextants if you want to farm Harvest for profit. Otherwise, honestly, you're better off just buying life force if you want to do harvest crafts, in my opinion. I really don't think it's worth doing harvest now without the sextant. Average and casual players, they're not going to care at all, but if you're doing this for money, you want to have that optimized, definitely, especially high quant, like I said, sextant. So, but yeah, as usual, if you know how to use life force, you'll make more money than someone who doesn't, but you'll absolutely be able to just farm as much as life force as you want per harvest, and then just sell that if you want to do that. So, just have a few notes that I was coming up with. The faster wasn't listed, randomized influence not listed. T2 seeds, we did seed these, so, but it probably does cost more, the Reforge crit. But yeah, that's basically what I wanted to say. So for example, the reason I think Juicing Harvest is going to create an absolutely incredible gap between a an average player and someone actually doing harvest for profit is because let's say that, GGG has a tradition of doing like very low tier content when they do harvest, like not really showing everything, like the potential of a certain mechanic. So maybe we could assume that like these drops here and these are like not juiced maps. I hope this is the case because this looks pretty good for people who want to farm harvest. Like for example, let me give you an idea. The sextant duplicates life force, so what that makes me believe is that all of the multipliers to quantity are going to apply before the double. So for example, let's say if we have, what is this, like 140 here, let's say with juicing map quantity and pack size, we get double this amount of life force, like 200% increased quantity with pack size, all that stuff. Like let's maybe say a 2.2 modifier. If you're really juicing quant and map pack size, you could get like maybe 300 life force. If possible, 250, I'll be fair, like let's say 250 life force per plot if you're juicing it. I honestly think it's going to be more like 300 plus, but let's say after that we double it with our sextant. That's 600 life force per plot. Let's say we get 4 plots. I mean, that's easily over 2,000 life force per map. So if you're juicing harvest and getting over 2,000 life force, that is quite strong because that would actually be like the equivalent of 8 more likelies. You'd have a truckload of reforges. You could use the exact reforges that you want since we can choose our crafts now. You can diversify easily. Like let's say with one specific reforge, you're printing a lot of a certain item or certain cluster. And then you can immediately switch to diversify your crafting portfolio on trade. So this is why I am excited. No matter what, I am super excited for the changes. Harvest was getting stale. I did actually want a rework because I was just getting a little bit bored with the same thing. So this is going to be really fun trying out the different ways to optimize it. Now, if at the end of the day I'm wrong, this stuff is actually a juiced map where you're going to be getting the equivalent of like 2 reforges per plot. It's going to be absolutely garbage, but we just can't know. TLDR, it's worse, the same, or buffed. So I'll see you guys again. I will be coming out with quite a few videos before league start. This is the first one I wanted to release though. Updates to the spreadsheet will be coming for Twitch subs patrons, so don't worry about that. It's going to be coming like after everyone's guides are out. But yeah, so I'll see you guys in the next one.